In this video, we'll show two different ways in which you can consume hierarchical JSON in list controls. So by hierarchical JSON, I mean JSON arrays that have subarrays in them. So for example, you can see here we have a list control, and if we go look at the static data that we used in this list, you'll see that we've used static data over here, and you can see that for each row of data we have a subarray of children, and the subarray has basically rows in it that have name and age fields. So this sample data over here comes from this option over there, hierarchical static data. So basically we're showing how you can consume this data in the list, and how you can either display these children in the list itself, or you can display them in a sublist or a child list. So let's go now and take a look at the list control running, and we'll see here there's basically within the list we've got the subarray shown over there, but you can see that also when we click on a row here we get to see this subarray being used to populate this child list over here. So let's go now and take a look at how this was done. So first of all, we'll go to this list itself, and obviously the data itself contains the subarray inside a property called children. So if we go look at the list fields, we see that children is shown over there, but it's shown as a type P, which is a pointer, which is how an array would be represented. But in the actual list layout, you can see that we've got children over there, but we've gone into the template for children, and we've customized the template. We've basically said that children is a repeating section, so therefore we use templating syntax to indicate the start of the group and the end of the group, and then within the group we're going to iterate over the subarray and print out the name and the age. So this templating syntax over here is just Alpha's generic client-side templating, and you can find out more information about that by going into the help system and searching on client-side templates. You'll see a full tutorial on using client-side templating. So that's basically how we display the subarray within the list itself. But in order to display the subarray in a child list, what we do is we go and we create a second list over here. We set the data source to the second list just to be static data, and we pick the fields from the subarray, so that's name and age, but we don't bother putting any actual data in here because we're going to dynamically populate this list. The only reason that we put the static data of name and age there is so that we can then go into the list layout and actually lay the list out itself. So now we basically have list 2 displayed on the screen, but there's no data in list 2 until we click on a row in the parent list. So now let's go back to the parent list and take a look at the list events. You can see that in the onSelect event of the list, we're going to basically execute this JavaScript. We're going to call a function called populateChild, which we'll discuss in a minute, and then we're going to call populateChild with the data for the current row. So this selection data 0 is the data for the current row, and we know that by just going to more help over here and seeing getting data values for the selected row. So that tells us that this selection data is the data for the current row. So now let's go take a look at the populate function. So the populate function basically just takes the data for the current row, looks at the children property, gets appointed to the child list, and then populates the child list. So what we've shown over here are two different techniques for dealing with hierarchical JSON data in a list. Thanks very much for watching.